So up next in session 2, we are very excited to introduce to you Alicia Rodriguez, who is the moderator and who she'll be sharing the session on how COVID-19 has impacted the landscape and culture of TikTok with 3 of her panelists. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and invite all 4 of them to come on camera and audio to have a conversation now with Alicia. Alicia, please.
Thank you, Crystal. Welcome, folks, to our panel exploring the question, how has COVID-19 impacted the landscape and culture of TikTok? To help us all think through this important and timely question, we have 3 esteemed speakers joining us from across Asia and Australia. First up, we have Ariel Bogle, who is an analyst with ASPI's International Cyber Policy Centre, where she researches online disinformation along other topics. Most recently, Ariel was a technology reporter with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, the ABC, and technology editor at The Conversation. Her reporting has been published in the New York Times, The Atlantic, Australian Financial Review, and The Guardian, and we thank Ariel for sharing her expertise with us today. Next, we have Kylie Song, who is the creative director and analytics lead for Hempful Creators Network. Kylie helps creators in Southeast Asia to grow their social media platforms and develop content monetization opportunities. Prior to Hempful's Creators Network, Kylie's work at SGAG involved generating audience insights and pioneering its research arm. Her work in academia has also been covered by the International Journal for Strategic Communication, and we appreciate Kylie sharing her wealth of industry knowledge in today's panel. Lastly, we have Patrick Smith, who is a US native that has been teaching English abroad for close to 10 years now. Patrick is currently living in Tokyo, Japan, and enjoys making TikTok videos about his experiences teaching, as well as his overall day-to-day experiences in Japan. You can follow Patrick on TikTok at @ThePaperPat, and we are grateful to have him join us today to provide his perspective as a creator on the platform. So thank you, Patrick. I'm going to start off this discussion by asking each panelist a question for which they will speak to for about 5 minutes. Just so everyone is aware, in the interest of keeping time, I will be politely interrupting the speakers when they approach this time limit so we can move the discussion forward. We're going to start off with Ariel. So Ariel, over the past year, we've witnessed a co-occurring rise in COVID-19 and TikTok. Through your work, how do you see the two interplaying, and what impacts should we be paying greater attention to?
Well, obviously, there's really a broad spectrum of interaction between the COVID-19 pandemic and sort of the attending social pressures and TikTok, as Crystal and her team just laid out in that great overview of their report. So I'll just focus on some of the things that I was specifically looking at in my job last year, when I was working at the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, and really focused on questions of disinformation. So overall, I thought it was fascinating to see questions of health and behavior during a pandemic being enforced on TikTok, and that continues even now into 2021. So, that might be seen on one hand, coverage of TikTok stars, people who have become infinitely famous on TikTok, partying, say in Los Angeles, and that getting covered in the New York Times. So that shows like the level to which TikTok awareness of TikTok stars grew, all the way down to in the comment sections of videos. Even now, when you see often young people out and about, maybe at a party, at a park, and they're not wearing a mask, you'll see the comment section fill up with accusations about them not wearing a mask, and then maybe some comments back from people being like, we're in Australia, we've managed this pandemic, so we don't have to wear masks. So those sort of enforcements of social norms was a really interesting dynamic we saw at play. But to turn to the misinformation, disinformation space specifically, when we started tracking COVID-related disinformation from about February 2020, we noticed even at the beginning, as Crystal and her team also noted, this spike in anti-Asian racism tied to the origins of the virus. So I do remember, say, one of the earliest clips we investigated, there was a video going around on Twitter, on Facebook, that alleged to show a woman of Chinese descent spitting on fruit in a supermarket in Australia, and the accusation being that she had COVID and she was deliberately trying to spread it. Of course, we dug into this, identified the shopping centre where it was alleged to have taken place. It never took place. And in fact, we found one of the first uploads of the video was on TikTok. And we got in touch with the person that uploaded it and it got taken down and all the rest. But that just shows how much TikTok was not alone. It was sort of part of a broader disinformation ecosystem. So we often found videos from TikTok being shared on Twitter and Facebook, often screenshots of tweets being put into into TikTok videos as a way of questioning official narratives about the virus, questioning health advice, suggesting, say, alternative remedies to the flu or to the COVID virus. So there's really it's part of that broader ecosystem. And unfortunately, that also includes sort of greater awareness, at least, or the rise in conspiratorial thinking. So I think most notably for me, although you can find anything you want on TikTok, so I don't want to overstate it, how much conspiratorial content is there. And certainly TikTok is an extremely hard platform to study and be definitive about the types of content that are on there and at what scale. But certainly it seemed like the Wayfair conspiracy theory really took off and really appealed to some of the younger users of the app, both in the United States and in Australia. So as a sort of background on Wayfair, Wayfair was a conspiracy theory tied to the overarching QAnon conspiracy theory, which unfortunately I assume most of us are now somewhat familiar with, but it's conspiracy theory about a global elite engaged in child abuse and child trafficking. And there came this sort of allegation that Wayfair, which is a furniture brand, was also involved, a furniture and luggage brand, sorry, was also involved in this child trafficking operation. And that really did take off on TikTok probably second half of 2020. So it was interesting to see that dynamic, how TikTok managed it, because certainly as TikTok's stature has grown, as its stars have gained mainstream attention, commensurate with that is greater attention on the platform and how it's managing disinformation. So I'll sort of finish my opening remarks here about saying how hard TikTok is to track and study. It is, like all social platforms, reticent about sharing how its platform actually operates, how its For You page operates. I think all researchers in this space are coming up with new and innovative ways of taking data off the platform and trying to understand how it works. But nevertheless, we see such a minor part of the platform and the overall content that it is really hard to understand how issues of health, misinformation, disinformation are treated on the app, whether TikTok's attempts to curtail the spread of disinformation on the app are even working. Just numbers that are just sheer numbers of videos taken down, I think, tell us relatively little about how the information sphere around COVID and around health in general is playing out. So I'll leave it there for now and look forward to chatting further.
Excellent, wonderful. Thank you, Ariel. Appreciate that one. All right, so moving on to Kylie. Kylie, with your experience through Hempful Creators Network in Singapore in respect to talent development, how has COVID-19 changed things for creators on the platform? And additionally, how has this impacted business models and practices in your industry?
I think that is a really great question. I think in terms of how it impacted creators, we started seeing creators really considering a career of making content on TikTok as a viable career option. I think what we saw during COVID-19, I think COVID-19 was really that accelerator, but there was really key elements that really needed to fall into place, right, for this entire creator ecosystem to even exist and for creators to have that option to build a career through TikTok. And the first thing was obviously creators, right? You need creators to make content. And with COVID-19, what we saw was a huge surge in creators hopping onto the platform. But beyond just number of creators hopping onto the platform, what we also saw was diversity being introduced onto the platform as well, and into that ecosystem in terms of the age as well as the socioeconomic status that the creators were coming from. We started seeing more millennials instead of Gen Zs on this predominantly Gen Z dominated platform. But even when it came to socioeconomic status for markets like Malaysia and Philippines that we are in as well, we started seeing creators not just from the urban population, but from the rural and suburban population hopping onto the platform as well, right? And I think this unique diversity was really only possible because of the second element that was present in the entire ecosystem, which was tech infrastructure. I think tech empowering creators to even have that option to enter the ecosystem and to build a career through TikTok, that was really critical, especially for developing markets like Malaysia and Philippines, where I think we saw improvements in mobile data infrastructure, declining cost of mobile data, as well as the rise of mid-tier phones. Those were some things that really made it possible for creators in the rural areas to start making content on TikTok. And if you take a step back and if you look at TikTok as a platform as well, and you compare it to other social media apps like Instagram or YouTube, the cost and the barrier to entry for a TikTok creator is a lot lower, right, compared to Instagram or YouTube, because on TikTok, you can film and you can edit and you can publish content all on mobile, and that's it, right? Especially for creators in the rural areas, as compared to maybe Instagram or YouTube, where the content is a lot more polished. So there is a higher production cost behind that, right? And so I think tech infrastructure was really an important element for the creator ecosystem to even exist, right? And I think the last element that was important for the creator ecosystem to function was the demand for branded content on TikTok, which Alicia, I guess, addresses your question on how COVID-19 impacted business models and practices in the media industry in our part of the world. I think with the lockdown, for businesses, what that meant was that media budgets were tightened, but they were definitely not completely frozen, right? Brands and organizations, they still had to talk to consumers, right? And what we saw was this shift of media budgets from traditional to digital, from bigger productions that were shot on sets to things that could be shot from home, like TikTok, right? You just whip your phone out and you can film everything from home because everybody's stuck on lockdown. And if you were to take a step back and look at the impact of COVID-19 on the entire creator ecosystem, right? I think what COVID-19 accelerated was the supply, right? The increase in creators hopping onto the platform and empowered through tech, right? The empowering that supply, giving creators the option to hop onto the platform. And the third thing was demand, where in terms of businesses, we started seeing that shift in media budgets. And where the network came in was to really fill that gap, right? Because businesses wanted to engage creators and creators were just hopping onto the platform for fun. Some trying to figure out how to even monetize. And where we came in was to educate creators and businesses on the rules of engagements, right? I think for creators, we had to teach them this is how clients think. This is what a campaign objective is. And for clients, it was a whole different ballgame altogether, where we had to tell them that creators are not your typical influencers, right? You need to hand the keys over to them to have that creative freedom to authentically integrate their brand into the content. And I think with that, 1 year on, with COVID-19 impacting and accelerating some of those elements, today I think we see TikTok becoming a key consideration for businesses and their marketing plans today, and creators now also considering this as a viable career option as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kylie. Really interesting points there. And particularly a thing that I was really stuck on is the development of the tech infrastructure, and wondering if that's a coincidence or because of COVID-19, it's all taking at the same time, but very interesting. All right, moving on to Patrick. Now, Patrick, a lot of your content centers on your experience as a teacher working and living in Japan, and the challenging and often humorous encounters that comes with that as a foreigner. Through your experience on the platform as a creator, how do you see the role of humor in TikTok videos for helping to educate and navigate challenging topics such as COVID-19 and intercultural relations?
Yeah, I think humor is, first of all, something that everybody loves. When you scroll on the For You page on TikTok, the majority of videos that you see are funny videos. When I first began TikTok, I started TikTok because I wanted to make dances. I like dancing. But then very quickly, I kind of shifted more towards comedic skits because that was what I was seeing most of the time on TikTok. There are all kinds of viral videos on the app. There's like sentimental, really like sweet viral videos. There's really informational videos that are super viral. But what you see that is, I think, the most common type and seems to really gain a lot of likes and comments and shares is those funny kind of videos. And so I was never one to like I never shifted in that direction because I wanted to become some huge TikToker who makes funny skits. I realized very quickly that with the tools that TikTok has, the editing tools within the app and just the process itself, it's fun to make little funny skits like that. So I kind of just became more that type of creator. That's what I'm most known for on the app, I think. And I think it's really important, I think, I think it's really helpful to be someone who can share funny content with an audience during this time, during this pandemic. A lot of people DM me or leave comments on videos that will say like, thank you so much for your videos. You know, this year has been really hard for me. And every time I see a video of yours, it just lights up my day. Like the whole day is just made better when I see your video. And being able to have that impact on people is just, it's a really humbling feeling. And it's nice to know that I can just make something really simple and silly, but have such a positive impact on so many people. And it's a very easy way to also educate people. I just made a TikTok actually, I think 2 days ago, regarding anti-Asian violence and hate that's going on in the US right now. And I did it in the style of videos that I normally do. It's like a very simple, like I'm a teacher talking to a class sort of format. But I very simply explained when one of my students asks me, why are people hating Asians in the US? I explain, you know, what racism is and how it's not okay, and the importance of loving everybody. And so many people in the comments were like, thank you so much for this. This is such a simple message, but it's so important. I wish, you know, people all over the world could hear this. If children can understand this, why can't, you know, grown adults understand it? And so it's not even really so much me trying to educate people, but the content that I'm sharing and the message in the content is very it's very, I guess it's just kind of insightful for people to see that, you know, my students here in Japan, my 5-year-old students, you know, are wondering about these types of things, and they have questions because, you know, they're not in the US, but they are Asian. Obviously, this is an issue that affects, you know, people on multiple levels in multiple places. And so being able to address something like that and have such a wide impact is really nice. And a lot of users on the app will obviously they don't use the same kind of, you know, comedic format to get information across, but they do share a lot of really educational content. There's a person I follow who she just does dances. She does dance trends, but she'll put text up on the screen of historical facts. So she's always teaching her audience about different points of history through her TikToks when she dances. It's really cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick. It's really interesting to hear, your perspective as a creator on the platform, and quite a lot, I will say quite a large creator with your following. And I imagine receiving that feedback in the comment sections and the DMs, it must be humbling and a wonderful feeling to know that you're able to brighten the day of many people across the globe during a very stressful time for many. So to continue with the second half of this panel discussion, so for the next about 10-15 minutes or so, we're going to have a free-form discussion, which is based around some questions, particularly from the audience. So those watching at home, if you have a question for the entire panel or a specific panelist, I encourage you to use the Q&A function, and I can take a look at those ones and read them out. Just a bit of housekeeping for this section of the discussion. I'll ask our panelists to just chime in if they wish to answer the question, and if multiple panelists would like to answer the question, I'll name the order of speakers. I'm going to take the opportunity as being the moderator to ask the question that I have for the group. So If you could change one thing about TikTok as a platform, whether that's a platform culture, an inbuilt feature, or a business practice, because of what's unfolded due to COVID-19, what would that be?
Any of us? Okay. Well, I feel obliged, given the type of work I do, to say more transparency tools, or just any would be great. So as I was saying up top, it is a fascinating platform, but so hard to objectively study. I think there might be some models, imperfect models, but models nonetheless from tools like CrowdTangle, which shows data from Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit and Instagram, and shows what's top trending and things like that. Even those kinds of basic insights, I think, would really help people have a better understanding of how TikTok operates. Even the For You page, why a video ends up on your For You page, why a video ends up at the top of the hashtag, is kind of a matter of speculation. Is it likes? Is it engagement? Is it a hashtag the platform sort of editorial team is favoring at that particular point in time? You know, all these kinds of questions are so interesting and yet so hard to answer. And I think, of course, that is a problem when trying to understand the spread of disinformation around COVID-19. But I think it also, on the other hand, creates a sort of is bad for TikTok's reputation, I guess I might put it that way, because it once again is kind of presents the black box kind of app, hard to understand, and so all kinds of speculation and conspiracies about the app itself can creep into that gap. So I think there would be benefit both for researchers and health professionals in understanding better how the app works, but also potentially for TikTok itself to have people better understand their own app.
I would completely agree. As a creator on the app, it's so mysterious. You never know what's going to do well, what's not going to do well. And there are so many creators on the app who actually experience what they call shadow bans, where your content doesn't really go out to that many people for unknown reasons. I think in the traditional sense, the shadow bans are supposed to be like the app itself suppressing your videos. But throughout talks that I've had with people who work at TikTok, when I got verified on the app, someone from TikTok reached out to me, and later when I thought I was experiencing a shadow ban, I reached out to her and asked about it, and she told me there's actually no shadow banning that happens at TikTok. However, there are like bugs that affect people's accounts, and they happen pretty often, it seems. Like there are a lot of creators who, if you look, they're like huge creators, like millions of followers, and then if you look at their most recent videos, you'll see that they're like barely getting views and likes, and it's just strange. So I do wish that TikTok was more open about these types of things and would do a better job of handling them.
Awesome. I might jump in here. I think this lovely, like the segue is really lovely to Davina's question, asking how can we make TikTok and other social media platforms take more responsibility?
I don't know, I guess I'll jump in. It's a really difficult question. Obviously, we haven't touched on it, but there was a lot of rhetoric last year, especially from the United States, around whether there would be a TikTok ban, you know, as was discussed before. That was much more focused around questions, erroneous or otherwise, around data protection, data privacy, relationships between the United States and China. So that also seems a bit not quite off the table, but certainly on the back burner. It doesn't seem to be a priority of the Biden administration just yet. So in terms of legislative solutions to TikTok, I don't tend to have one, and it's certainly something that governments will continue to struggle with. They haven't really come up with a method or a tool of accountability yet for the other more established, in the West at least, social media platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So unfortunately, I do not have a great answer to that one. But I certainly feel like governments should certainly be getting to grips with the types of information distribution that happens on TikTok. And if they leave it too long, they'll be on the back foot, just as they were with YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and Instagram a few years ago.
Kylie, is there anything in terms of from the creators' side? Do you see that there's a way that creators or the industry or the business models would be able to push TikTok to take more responsibility?
I think it's really tough, right? If you think from a business perspective for TikTok or even for any other tech giants, but it's gonna be really tough for them to manage like thousands of creators all on their own, right? But I think then that falls back. I think the owners then falls back onto businesses and networks and agencies and companies, right, to build that relationship with TikTok and to build that relationship with all these other tech giants to help be that middleman to manage the relationship between creators and platforms like TikTok. And I think where we come in as a network, I guess, it's to help educate creators and help manage the creators and to teach them that certain types of content is brand safe and what's not brand safe. So I think when it comes to where the business comes in and where companies come in, the owners does fall back, I guess, on companies like ours to build that relationship and establish that relationship with TikTok and to be that middleman between creators as well as businesses.
Great. Okay. So we have a question from the audience, and this is for the entire panel. Do you think TikTok is changing the way that we act on/react to other forms of social media?
I would say for me, yes, because I've grown a lot on Instagram as a result of having TikTok, as well as Twitter, and so I don't know that I would be on Twitter. Like I don't think I'd be doing anything differently if I didn't have TikTok. But in terms of like having an audience that has affected that specific platform. But even with Instagram, like I make way more stories now than I ever used to because of the audience that I have and people who are actually watching it who have come from TikTok, or through the Reels function on Instagram itself. So I do think TikTok has had a huge effect. Like Reels wouldn't even be a thing on Instagram if it weren't for TikTok. And so if you don't know Reels, it's like basically the same thing as TikTok, very short form videos. And so as a creator, I have definitely kind of shifted the way that I use at least Instagram, and also I would say YouTube. And it's directly affected, yeah, by TikTok.
I think to jump in here from a creator perspective, something interesting that we saw in our part of the world was in terms of how TikTok creators were changing the way that they reacted on other social media platforms, right? I think some of our creators previously, they existed solely on Instagram, where Instagram, it's very lookbook-ish, the content is very aspirational, but I think not every creator fit into or made that type of content. And when TikTok came up, what we started to see was creators who thrived on making comedy content, who thrived on making the non-lookbook-ish, non-aesthetically pleasing looking content. They started to explode on TikTok, and we saw that shift of that audience and that transfer of that audience being moved over from TikTok to Instagram as well. And I think when creators saw that, hey, my fit is with making TikTok type or TikTok style of content, then that was where they changed their approach of how they approached Instagram, where Instagram became a separate platform for them to engage the TikTok audience who had moved over to follow them on Instagram because of their TikTok content. So I think that shift in content strategy for certain creators, that was definitely something that we saw when TikTok popped up.
Awesome. So we have another question specifically for Patrick. How has viewing the pandemic via TikTok unfolding in the US been received by yourself as an expat overseas, looking back and compared to traditional news channels?
Excuse me. It's been really interesting. I would say when things first began to get kind of bad with COVID, which was, I remember it being back in like December, January 2020. That was when I actually made my most viral TikTok, which was me going to a Japanese public bath and just showing the place, like where you put your shoes, where you get a ticket, and all these kinds of things. And a lot of people liked it because it was just something unique. But there was one point in the video where you see someone who's wearing a mask, and there were so many comments that were saying, "Oh, she's got a mask. She's got coronavirus. Oh yeah, you're over in China. You've got corona. You're gonna get corona now," and all these things. And I remember thinking, like, because I'd heard of it a little bit, but I wasn't too familiar with what even COVID-19 was. And so I was realizing, oh, this is kind of a big deal. And in the US, it wasn't a huge problem yet, but people knew of it as like the China problem, the China disease. And so they were like, oh, you're gonna get COVID. And then flash forward to a few months from then, and it was running rampant in the US. And that was all you saw on TikTok. Just so many, posts about the importance of wearing masks, or how you shouldn't have to wear masks, and people being cooped up in their homes. And I just kind of saw it as like, it was like seeing it through, like I was outside of a house looking in through a window at what was unfolding, because Japan didn't really have too many, well, it's it's a long, like, complicated topic, but Japan and COVID-19 specifically. But in the beginning, Japan didn't really have that many cases. We still don't have that many reported cases compared to a lot of other countries, especially the US. And so it was like I was looking in from the outside, like pretty much through the entire year. It was like, I don't feel like I've really experienced the pandemic in the same way that many people have. And so yeah, I've been able to see a lot about it through TikTok specifically. That was where I learned actually a lot about COVID-19. So it's been really interesting viewing it from Japan specifically.
Yeah, great. And just quickly broadening this out to both Kylie and Ariel, if you have any commentary of how, from your, because we're all located in different countries, if you noticed anything in terms of like the way that the pandemic is being talked about on TikTok as opposed to traditional news. Any thoughts there?
Well, it doesn't have different from news, but certainly everything, a lot of what you see on TikTok is refracted through the personal. So you saw stories of lockdown through the personal lens. In Australia specifically, you saw a lot of people making a personal statement about who they were, what kind of identity they had through their attitude to COVID, I think, as I was talking before, that sort of enforcement of social norms on other people. That's a statement of who you are and what you believe. And I think some of that fandom of public figures in Australia, specifically the Premier of Victoria, Dan Andrews, the same in WA, Mark McGowan, the kind of Twitter fandom for those characters, for those people, was a sort of way to personalize and maybe find some comfort from within the news cycle, because you were seeing those figures on traditional media every day. You saw Dan Andrews' daily press conference, and then you would see the reaction to that on TikTok in the form of sort of fan cam videos often. So that was really interesting to see. Yeah, I guess overall, like just to come back to the I guess to that America piece as well. Certainly, at least in the TikToks I'm seeing, and I've not done a specific study of this, so this is what's showing up in my feed. There is a lot of commentary from people in Australia, from people throughout Southeast Asia, from people in Europe about America and its reactions and its policies on COVID. So I would say it's certainly like a problem for America's sort of soft power effort in that TikTok and personal stories by Americans about COVID and the sort of disaster of the COVID response there. People are seeing that, and there's a lot of commentary on TikTok about how America has a lot of criticism, I guess, to put it bluntly, about America and its COVID response, which has sort of blown out to other commentary about America's policy on education, about healthcare, about America's policies on race and all kinds of issues. So it's been interesting to see those sort of political things that happen on the news sort of become personalized and discussed on TikTok as well.
I think that's a lovely segue for the final question that I'm going to put towards the panel before we wrap it up. So I do ask that the answers be succinct with this one, though it is a big question. Do you see TikTok as a tool for civic engagement and activism? And if so, by what means and where have you observed this play out?
I think it definitely is. With TikTok as a platform, I think it democratizes content, right? And it gives power to the people where now you don't really need certain equipment to start speaking up and to start posting content online. But with TikTok, I think it makes it very easy and very accessible for even people in the rural areas to now speak up about issues that matter to them, right? So TikTok as a platform, because of the way that the app is designed, I think there is a potential for it to become a tool for civic engagement and activism. I think in Singapore, we did see creators starting to speak up about defending and fighting for minority races. And even in the Philippines, we did see big companies like big organizations like UNICEF partnering with creators to tell creators to make more brand safe content as more people were hopping onto the platform, and child safe content to be specific. Yeah.
Yeah, I think TikTok is a really great way to spread an important message. When all the things regarding the death of George Floyd happened in the US months ago, that was like all that was on TikTok for a while. People voicing their support for Black Americans, and or showcasing themselves, going out and doing a protest, joining protests and things like that. There have been a lot of posts recently about, the hashtag Stop Asian Hate, the hate crimes that are happening in the US regarding Asian Americans. People have tagged me in videos, or they'll tag me in a video where they will have text on the screen about some sort of issue happening in another country that I don't even know is happening. And then I'm able to sometimes duet the video and just bring more eyes to that topic and get people to do something about it, whether it's signing a petition or if they can donate money to a good cause, or whatever the topic is. TikTok is a great way to get information out, and I love that people use it as a way to get information about topics that are really worth discussing out to many eyes at once. So yeah.
Thank you. Ariel, do you have final thoughts?
I definitely agree. And I was just going to say around environmental activism too, I think it's been quite a powerful tool, especially in the Australian context. In 2019, a lot of the youth-led climate protests were organized, promoted on TikTok as well. So it's interesting to see it in that context as well.
Wonderful. So on that note of an uplifting message of TikTok being used to spread messages of really important causes and things taking place, we're going to wrap up the panel there. I would love to, and I will thank Ariel, Kylie, and Patrick for sharing their time, energy, and expertise with us today. And a big round of applause for you all. I'll now hand it back over to Crystal.
Thank you so much, Alicia, Ariel, Kylie, as well as Patrick. We've been following your work for a really long time, and it's so great to see you outside of your TikTok accounts and your scholarship and your work. I want to very quickly share our next slide just to introduce Emily Vandenagel and our panelists to you.